Howdy guys, Rex here. Today we're going to talk about long-range shooting proficiencies and what is required in your personality to be successful at this. And when I say successful, I'm not talking about just like turning dials and hitting targets eventually, okay? I'm talking about actually going out there and commanding one shot with such authority and such awareness of what's going on in your system that you only need one round. You can put one round in your front shirt pocket, go out there and make a long-range shot and put exactly what you want on the first try, okay, under pressure, consistently. That is a skill set that's very, very hard to acquire if you don't have a very, very particular set of personality traits, okay? There's a lot of people who are long-range shooters who are good at turning dials and just cranking it until you hit it. And I think we all have done that from time to time, especially when we're in a hurry, don't have the patience to lay down. But there's a whole different skill set, which is really that one shot, one hit kind of deal. That's specifically what I'm talking about. At Rex Defense, we do a lot of rifle training, and we talk about ways to really discipline yourself, to calm the hell down, think about exactly what you're doing before you do it, and you only have that one shot, okay? And there's a lot of pressure there to make sure you get it right. And so there are certain personalities that work well with that and certain ones that don't. Number one, this is the biggest one, you have to have patience and attention to detail, okay? So there's a lot of folks who can't handle the pace of the seminar because we do get into a lot of detail. We talk about certain topics that are very, very important because nobody talks about them, and people are still spinning their wheels even after 10 years of a guy preaching about it on certain areas. If they would just pay attention to a few of these key topics, they would be able to manage their rifle very effectively, and they would understand what's going on. They would understand how to actually get true ballistic dope and confirm that and adjust it appropriately, okay? And that's attention to detail with patience, okay? And if you can sit down and think about a topic for more than 15 or 20 minutes or an hour or even 2 hours, okay? 2 hours on a particular subject is not that long of a time, especially if it's a very dynamic topic that has to do with how the weapon acts under recoil, how the weapon vibrates. Things like that are very important. There are certain key topics that if people would understand what's going on, the industry would make leaps and bounds forward, both on the ballistics end and on the equipment end, like in terms of the rifles and ammunition, when you're talking about these things in terms of consistency and performance. And so that's kind of where there's still a lot of wiggle room, where there's still a lot of gap in understanding. And that's where we try to fill the void. But it's important if you want to be good at it. Now, if you're just shooting at steel all day long, this huge giant plates of steel, inside 1,000 yards, and you can take 1 or 2 shots to hit it, that's easy. Then you don't need to worry about what I'm talking about. But if you really want to get good, if you want to hit like a clay pigeon on the first shot at 1,000 yards, or maybe on the second shot, that's like really hard to do if you don't pay attention to those small things ahead of time, okay? So managing your system, making your logs and studying the wind, learning how to analytically put everything together and not get sucked into that slobber factor of just wanting to keep pulling the trigger until bullets eventually land on the target, okay? That requires a huge amount of self-discipline in just like, nope, I'm gonna pay attention to what's going on, I'm gonna shut my mouth and observe, or I'm gonna learn about this topic and I'm gonna figure it out. A lot of people get bucked off the horse right there, and then they end up being in the middle of the bell curve with long-range shooters who are happy hitting giant pieces of steel at 1,000 yards out with 1 or 2 shots, okay? If you want to go beyond that, you have to really, really start to slow down and pay attention. So patience is a huge virtue when it comes to this particular game. And the patience will allow you to go into the level of detail needed to be able to understand what's really going on with the system, okay? And adjust your ammunition and your ballistics accordingly, because all those little subtleties, particularly when you talk about internal ballistics, play into everything. They play into exactly how you interface with the rifle. They play into your ammunition selection and how you construct your ammunition. They play into how you deploy your rifle, like lay it on the ground. It plays into how you mount your optics, how you tighten the screws, everything. And so if you get that game sorted out real good, all of a sudden you'll figure out that, hey, I actually know where the bullet's going to go every time now, because I studied this, I minimized those variables, and now all I have to do is log what happens, and then then you're golden. Okay. And so patience and attention to detail, huge, very rare nowadays. Most people will get to getting very impatient very quickly, and this is even a lot of professionals. In fact, the pressures placed on most professionals, whether that be military or competitive circles, is to it's a different pressure than what I'm talking about, and it's to really just kind of get rounds out there, get them on target, and keep going. Okay. And in real life, however, those of you that are experienced with moving animate targets that are incredibly smart, you only have one shot, and then you have to track it down, find it again, and now it is totally alert to where that you are there, and it's not going to play as nice. Okay, so you only get that one shot at it, so you can't screw it up. Like in competition, you can screw it up and there's no pressure there. I'm not saying competition is bad. That's exercising different muscles, okay? I'm not saying military is bad. However, that's a whole different level of understanding. By necessity, the military has to cater to the denominator of recruits coming in. They have no idea where the hell these guys come from. They have to train to that denominator so that they can establish a baseline, and then they can, add experience and skill sets to that. And there are a lot of really good shooters from competitive and military circles, but they usually bring those skill sets to the table before. They don't acquire them at the table, they bring them to the table, if you know what I mean. And so that's where most of those advancements come from, is people who have already been enthusiasts and grown up with it their entire lives. So that's what advances the science. It's not really like people think, where you look at where it ends up being used in the in the end sale product, that skill set. That's not where the advancements are made. The advancements come from people who live and breathe this stuff since they're little tiny kids. Okay, you look. I just studying Simo Hayhop from the Finnish War, the Winter War of 39 and 40, and when the Russians invaded Finland, and he was a farmer and a hunter and a skier. And he shot rifles for fun his whole life, and he was an incredible marksman. He ended up being the world's most accomplished sniper, really, in terms of death ratios or kill ratios. Like, he was very, very deadly at what he did, but he understood fieldcraft, he understood the importance of getting off that one shot, and he understood marksmanship, and he was a good shooter. He brought a lot to the table, not the other way around. When he went out into the woods when he was 21 years old and joined the local, I think they called it the White Guard. It was like the local militia of the day, and then he eventually joined the Finnish army as a sniper. He brought those skill sets to that table, not the other way around. The militia did not train him on how to do that. He came there with it, and so there's a pressure there that's different. So don't get caught up into that fallacy, really. And I'm just trying to be realistic. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes, but it's really the truth. Most of your guys that are super successful with this stuff bring the meat to the table, not the other way around. They don't find meat laying on the table of competition or laying on the table of the military training. Okay, it's the other way around. So it's interesting when you study it out. So patience is a virtue. If you've got 8 minutes and 52 seconds in the video already, and you're still listening, then you are probably more on the end of the spectrum that could handle the discussions needed to study those case studies and to look into the science part of it and actually be successful in the game. Okay, so those are two huge things. There's another really, really big deal, and the test was just issued about a minute and a half ago in the discussion antecedent to this. Okay, and that is the Y chromosome, ego, and attitude. If you are not a super laid back guy, you're going to have a hell of a time in this game, because you can be very, very proficient in the knowledge. You can understand all the subtleties and all the stuff going on with the craft, and really, really screw it up, because all of a sudden now there's a dude looking at you, or there's something going on, or there's competitive pressure or whatever, and now you get tunnel vision because you are high strung, and your entire self-worth is reliant on you being the cool tactical guy, or the or the expert, right? in the field, and so that'll screw you up. So you have to be humble. You have to kind of not take yourself too seriously. You got to have a sense of humor. You got to be able to kick back and say, if there's something here to be learned, I'm going to learn it. I'm not going to try to project my superiority over everybody. I am here to learn things or absorb as much as I can and observe as much of reality as I can. Okay, and so that's something that's very, very interesting, as well as a lot of guys who are very, very good at what they do. And I've seen this in real life multiple times. I'm not going to give any names, but a lot of these guys get so wrapped up in trying to maintain some kind of castle built out of sand that they might have built around themselves. It's ego is what it is. And it'll hose them bad, dude, real bad. And guys that can just be chill and there's certain ways psychologically to circumnavigate that slobber factor, I like to call it, the Y chromosome factor that screws guys up. And there's certain drills we construct to kind of demonstrate how that can be washed away, okay? Or you can train out of that, sort of, but it all depends. It's really an attitude thing, okay? Attitude will physiologically screw up your ability to feel the subtleties that are required to execute marksmanship with perfection, okay? If you got adrenaline because your self-worth depends on you making the shot, that adrenaline will cause you to pump all the blood out of your fine motor skills, your digits and all that stuff, and you're not going to feel how heavily your cheek is laying on that cheek rest, how much your palm pressure is, how much that buttstock is in there. You're not going to pay attention to what's going on in terms of the rifle laying on the ground. You're going to be in a tunnel vision state because you're 90% of your RAM in your brain is worried about what other people are going to think after that gun goes off if you miss or if you hit or whatever it is. You're thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about what task you're trying to execute. And so I find that to be a very, very interesting dilemma. But we've seen it over and over and over again. And every guy has it. It's just a matter of getting past it. Of course, all young men especially have it. Most of them do. Ladies are kind of exempt from that, which makes it easier to train them. Sometimes younger kids are easier to train. They're a little more exempt from that because they're not quite into that deal where their entire self-worth is contingent upon them being successful at this MacGyver craft or not. They all have to, be the guy in the movie, who does it perfectly, like Mark Wahlberg, right? And so it's kind of interesting to watch that pucker factor just totally hose guys. And I've had it happen to me, so I'm an expert at it because I used to do it, okay? And it's the Dunning Kruger effect. We all got to get past that. We all get really, 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 really cocky, and then we get humble later, okay? And so that's something. If you find someone who's really cocky and they tell you how awesome they are all the time, and they stick their chest out and they're blowing it out and they're peacocking and they got the feathers, that's a sign that they're still acquiring knowledge and still acquiring skill sets to the point to where they're getting real cocky. And they start to think they know everything, but they maybe don't actually know all that stuff yet. And the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And that, in the subtle art of executing marksmanship, along with maintaining the peripheral awareness needed to manage the entire system as a whole, because there's a lot of stuff going on with atmospherics and wind that you also have to pay attention to. And if your Y chromosome is messing up all the rest of the stuff, you're going to suck it bad. It's going to be really, really hilarious. And so I always like to kind of very, very, very carefully tease those guys or pick on them a little bit in a subtle way. Or we'll make, I try to make it fun. My correction is always fun, okay, guys? I don't try to make it embarrassing or anything like that. And anyone can attest who's an alumni of the course that unless you're hypersensitive or something like that, we have a lot of fun out there, okay? Even when we have drills that are designed to humble us, okay? I like to, another thing too, a good way to nip that one in the butt, to maintain humility is to train way beyond your capabilities. If you're shooting at an E-type all day long and you're clanging steel and you get cocky, you need to switch to a smaller target immediately. Put out a beer bottle or put out a clay pigeon, okay? And then decrease the amount of time you have to shoot. Wait until the winds are horrible. And then get a bunch of guys who are going to make fun of you, stand around you. I mean, increase the pressure. Train above your ability. That will humble you, okay? Hang out with guys that are good shooters. That's actually where competitive shooting sports can be helpful. Although sometimes It depends on the personality. If you're prone to use your martial arts skills, your modern martial arts, which what kind of shooting is, and that's something that's like directly linked to the Y chromosome of the male. Okay, if that's a deal that's going to hose you, then you're never really going to get past that deal. And that's why martial arts spends so much time on the mindset or the bushido of combat, is trying to diffuse all that crap, because it will screw you up and it'll make you a less effective fighter or user of any tool when you're psychologically all messed up, okay? Because you don't have your bushido down, okay? So that's very important. A lot of people think that I get philosophical for no reason. There's actually really, really good reasoning behind that. We don't do it for no reason. So all the drills we do are constructed with all that stuff in mind. And there are reality drills, there are confidence building drills. You do need to have that enough of a magnetic pull to not just get bucked off the horse. So number one, patience. We're going to review again, okay? Do you have the patience to do the review? Okay. We're going to review patience, attention to detail, attitude. Huge. If you are a successful long-range shooter, or if you're attracted to it, you probably got a good dose of most of those three. Those, however, are the three main personality traits that are unique amongst successful long-range shooters as defined before in the video. And so I hope that was enjoyable to you. And if you guys do want to come train with us, we'd enjoy that a lot. You can check out rexdefense.com. I do believe we're headed to Hillsdale College in Michigan this coming weekend, which is going to be awesome. If you see this video after that happens, check out rexdefense.com. There's training events by date, or a training schedule, or a course directory, or whatever it's called, and it has all the different training by date, okay? We would love to come hang out with you. We have more fun than anyone's allowed to have. We're nice guys. We might, push the limits a little bit. We might test those three personality traits, but those are filtration mechanisms. I don't want guys possessing this skill set that can't be within those particular parameters. And your Venn diagram of personality traits has to all intersect, all three of those. And in the middle of that, if you can do that, that's where you're going to be good. All right, guys, may the Schwartz be with you, and we'll catch you on the flip side. rexdefense.com.